Hi, it's Steve Dold from the PSC Special Projects Unit. Part of our job is testing cars for radio interference. The client agency cars, mostly CHP, but sometimes CDF, Fish and Game. What we look for is whether or not things that are built into the car, like the brake lights or the windshield wipers, can cause radio interference to the two-way radios. That interference has the effect of making the receivers less sensitive, and so we call that receiver desensitization, or desense. And we also look for interference generated by added equipment, like the light bar, the computer monitor, modems, things like that. And after we make these measurements, we'll write up a report that gives the amount of desense in dB or decibels for each item. So, for example, we might say that the light bar caused 10 dB of desense. So what that number means isn't all that obvious, and so we made this video to help explain it with some graphics and a few audio files. This is a computer simulation of the coverage from one of the CHP transmitters up at Wolf Mountain, up near Grass Valley. The green areas are good coverage areas. Cars in those areas would hear the mountaintop pretty strong. The yellow areas are marginal, and you'd hear the mountaintop pretty well, but not quite as strong as you would in the green areas. And the white areas are areas of poor coverage, where the signal from the mountain would likely to be pretty noisy or maybe non-existent. For each area, I will play recordings that demonstrate what the different dB desense values sound like. Each recording is going to be a pair of recordings, and the first one has no desense, and the second one has the desense that I mentioned. So what I mean by that is, if I say, here's 3 dB, first I'll play a recording with no desense, last maybe 5 seconds. Then right after that, I'll play a recording with the 3 dB of desense. And so you get to hear the very same dispatch call, one right after another, first with no desense, and then the second one has the desense, so to make it for an easy comparison. Okay, here's an area of good coverage. And what you'll notice here is that the signal from the mountain is so strong that it takes quite a bit of desense to have an effect. 3, 6, 10, 16 dB have almost no effect on this. And at 20 dB, you'll notice a little bit, but you really notice it at 30. Okay, here's the 3 dB demonstration. First, no desense, then 3 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
6 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
10 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
16 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
20 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
30 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
Okay, so the takeaway here is, if you're in a good area and you have a strong signal from the mountaintop, you can tolerate a lot of desense before you notice an effect on the radio. 3 dB or 6 dB, even 10 or 16 dB didn't really have much of an effect. But when it got to 20, you started hearing some noise. And 30 certainly made a difference. It was almost unreadable. Okay, here's an area of marginal coverage. It's not weak, but it's not as strong as it was in the good area. So it doesn't take as much desense to cause noise in the receiver. 3 dB and 6 dB aren't really noticeable, but 10 dB is, and 16 dB is almost unreadable. I don't show 20 dB here because it wouldn't even open the squelch on the radio. Let's start with 3 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
6 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
10 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over. 45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
16 dB.
45-283, 1125 pieces of metal west on 80 and over.
Okay, here's an area of poor coverage. The signal is readable, but even a small amount of descents has an effect. You can notice it with 3 dB, but 6 dB is very noticeable. We'll start with 3 dB.
4533, 1125 piece of metal west on 80 and over. 4533, 1125 piece of metal west on 80 and over.
6 dB.
4533, 1125 piece of metal west on 80 and over. 4533, 1125 piece of metal west on 80 and over.
10 dB.
4533, 1125 piece of metal west on 80 and over. 4533, 1125 piece of metal west on 80 and over.
So after hearing that, it's pretty easy to see that if you're in a weak area where the mountaintop is not very strong to you, that even a small amount of descents, like 3 dB or 6 dB, can have a pretty big effect. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening and watching. The point we're trying to make is, whatever the descents is, it might be a big deal, or it might not even be noticeable. It all depends where you are and how strong the signal is that you're trying to hear. That's it. If you have any questions, give us a call or come see us in the Special Projects Unit. Thanks.